begin to understand, you know, you cannot have peace without war, right? So we know for an surety, right, this, in the second coming of Christ, man, that Christ said that there was going to be things that were going on or transpiring in the earth that would just show the Bible being as true as we can believe it now, more than ever, right? So only those men who are blinded to what the Word of God is saying, or who don't even study it, man, will not even be. How can I say? How can I put it? They won't even be on the same page. You know what I mean? When things began to go down, when things really began to go down, right? So they talk about people who are conspiracy nuts and things like that. Well, you know what? I can say that I am a little bit to an extent, right? Because that's the one thing, man, that when I first came into the truth, when I came in and before I came in, right? I was into the Illuminati, Rex 84, conspiracy theories, and things of that nature. But then when I found when I really started to come into the understanding, man, of you know how true the Bible is, man, and how all of this ties into together a lot of the things that are transpiring in the earth now, you know, it made me change my life and turn myself around. It made me repent. It made me seek my God and his protection, right? Because I know for sure, man, as I read that things aren't going to get any better, in the earth. And things are going to continue to get worse as time goes on, right? So that's why, we definitely have to make sure that as a people, we're definitely on the right side of the Most High, and that we're prayed up, and that we make sure, man, that our foundation is solid in this word. Because if not, then when the time comes and affliction comes, and as we're gonna read, you're gonna read that our forefathers went through afflictions, man, that is not even spoken about in any other history, right? They'll tell you about the times of King Solomon. Rarely talk about David. Rarely talk about Saul. You know what I mean? But they will never talk about the Greek history of the Israelites, right? And the hell that they went through while they were under the captivity of the Greeks. This king in particularly, whose name was Antiochus, this man was a bastard. I'm telling you that right now. He was evil. He was one of the most evilest kings, man, our people literally had to face. And the Most High had to come and smash this man completely, right? But you're going to see how this man was smashed. And you're going to see how, as time progresses, man, how the revolutionaries that were during this time, man, how they arose. And you're going to see the exact same thing, man, come to pass even in this very time as well, right? So let's open up to the book of First Maccabees, and we'll get a little bit of understanding on what true revolution, the revolution of 2016, right? You're going to see how it's all going to begin to unfold. Right now, you see massive chaos. You see all type of death going on. You know what I mean? Every time, man, you look at the news, it's always about some a brother or sister dying. Why every time, man, I read an article on Facebook, it's about a brother or a sister being killed, without mercy. And you're going to see that this has always happened to our people, man. In whatever captivity that they were in, brothers and sisters were being oppressed mightily. But yet at the same time, the Most High, with his magnificent spirit, he raised up leaders, and guess what? He delivered us from those situations. And he's gonna do the exact same thing, man. This is why, it's key that brothers and sisters, man, definitely get themselves, right in the scriptures. And that's why we have to make sure that we maintain the Holy Spirit, man, as it's been given to us, right? So now, this is in First Maccabees. I'm gonna start with chapter 1 and verse 1. I know we go into it a lot, man, but it's still like a lot of understanding that we can still receive from it, right? Even pertaining to this time. But before we go there, let's go to the book of Luke. Let me pull this out, because I mentioned something that the times in which Christ said we would be in, right? Let me see, Luke chapter 17. and verse 26. Luke chapter 17 and verse 26. We'll start here. And it says, "And as it was in the days of Noah, so shall it be also in the days of the Son of Man. They did eat, they drank, they married wives, they were given in marriage until the day Noah entered into the ark, and the flood came and destroyed all of them." So now check that out. So Christ is giving some key history here. So he's showing you when he is going to come, when he's going to come back. He's showing you his second coming, right? And in the time when he's going to arrive. And he's showing you that, guess what? Like you see now, you know what I mean? You still see men, marrying wives. You see brothers marrying wives of other nations. You see people still partying, still drinking, still having the bombest times of their lives, man. Even though all of this death is going on, their brothers and sisters being killed, people are still doing all of this, partying, looting, rioting, all of that, right? It says, given in the marriage until the day Noah entered into the ark and the flood came. So Christ is saying, man, they're gonna be doing all this partying and carrying on all the way up until the great destruction comes upon this place called America. That's what they're gonna be doing until it hits them and they don't know that it's hitting them. You see? So all of this stuff they talking about, FEMA camps and all of this crap, man. No, that's for those who know. That's for those who are conscious of what satanic system, man, is being set up here on earth. And they're going to do anything to keep them quiet so that the rest of the masses will stay asleep and stay obedient. You see? But now let's check this out. So now let's go to the book of Maccabees again, so y'all can get this understanding. So it says in First Maccabees chapter 1 verse 1, it's in your Apocrypha. You have the red Apocrypha. That's page 113. All right. And it says, and it happened after that Alexander the son of Philip the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Chittim, and smitten Darius, king of the Persians and Medes, that he reigned in his stead the first over Greece. And he made many wars and won many strongholds and slew the kings of the earth, and went through to the ends of the earth and took spoils of many nations, insomuch that the earth was quiet before him, whereupon he was exalted and his heart was lifted up. Right? So this is the Greek Empire. This is the empire of the Greeks or the Macedonians coming into power. Right? They united the Greek city-states. Alexander, once he crushed all of the rebellions, he crossed the Hellespont into Asia Minor and began conquering. Right? All of the face of the earth of the known world. Okay, so then it says, and he gathered a mighty strong host and ruled over many countries and nations and kings, who became tributaries unto him. And after these he fell sick and perceived that he should die. Wherefore he called his servants, such as were honorable and had been brought up with him from his youth, and parted his kingdom among them while he was yet alive. So Alexander reigned 12 years and then died, and his servants bare ruled every one in his place. And after his death they all put crowns upon themselves, so did their sons after them many years, and evils were multiplied in the earth. So now you see, this is when evils began to become completely multiplied upon the face of the earth, right? When the Greeks took power. So you want to know when the most homosexuality was put out there? It's all with the Greeks, man. Child porn, all of that with the Greeks. Nude festivities, naked wrestling, the Olympic Games, all the things which you see today, man, that Esau takes pride in right now, you see that the Greeks were doing too. All right. So let's read on. And there came out of them a wicked root, Antiochus Epiphanes, the son of Antiochus the king, who had been hostage at Rome, and he reigned in the 137th year of the kingdom of the Greeks. So in the 137th year, the Greeks have been in power. This is when this man came into power, and this was around 175 BC, right? And it says, in those days there went out of Israel wicked men, who persuaded many, saying, Come, let us go and make a covenant with the heathen that are round about us. For since we departed from them, we have had much sorrow. So these were wicked Israelite men. These were leaders of our people, right? They began to persuade many to do what? To follow the ways of the Greeks, right? He said, look, since we departed from them, we're having much trouble. We're being oppressed, all of that, right? So just like you see the coons that you see on TV, right? That the Republican convention, the Democratic convention, all of these coons, man, sticking up, you know what I mean, for this so-called white man, right? Trying to get the people to sit here and buy into the lies that these people are pushing. You see what I'm saying? All of that presidential election crap is just is BS. It's garbage. It is no use for the black people, all right, or the Israelites. Because the Lord even said, man, we are not to set a foreigner over us as to be our leader or our king whatsoever. That's why it ain't work with Obama. That's why it's not going to work with Bush. It ain't going to work with Clinton. It ain't work with Daddy Bush. It ain't work with any of the presidents, man, that was in control of the United States. Yeah, the U.S. may have been in a better economical position, but you know what? That's BS. That's garbage because you still in captivity at the end of the day, and you still being oppressed, and you're still a slave. You see? But as you can see, man, so these are the men who are persuading our people, man, to side with the Greeks, right? So then it says, so this device pleased them well. So many of the people that bought into it, guess what? They follow right behind their leaders, man, going to beg the Greeks for what? For privilege, for rights, for licenses, for businesses, to do what? To make the souls of their own people abominable. You know what I mean? So let's read on. So it says, then certain of the people were so forward herein that they went to the king, who gave them license to do after the ordinances of the heathen. So just like you see now, man, many of our people, they go and they do what? They want businesses set up, right? They want businesses set up, man. So they go and they get licenses or permits from the government, so that they can set up their businesses, right? Just like you see the 501c3 nonprofit tax exemption that the churches get, so that they don't have to do taxes, right? But at the cost of what? You got to lie to your people. You got to make your people's souls abominable unto their God, right? But they not worried about that. But let's read on. So it says, whereupon they built a place of exercise at Jerusalem according to the custom of the heathen, and made themselves uncircumcised, and forsook the holy covenant, and joined themselves to the heathen, and were sold to do mischief. What is that mischief that they're talking about? That mischief is making the souls of their people an abomination unto God. Sold to do mischief, the same things that you see Young Thug doing, the same things that you see them Uncle Ruckus is doing on stage, speaking for the so-called presidential candidates. Sold to do mischief, right? But let's read on. So now we're going to drop down and we're going to read verse. We'll keep reading. So it says, and now when the kingdom was established before Antiochus, he thought to reign over Egypt, that he might have dominion over 2 realms. Wherefore he entered into Egypt, and a great multitude with chariots and with elephants and with horsemen, and a great navy, and made war against Ptolemy, king of Egypt. And Ptolemy was afraid of him, and fled, and many were wounded to death. Thus they got the strong cities in the land of Egypt, and took the spoil thereof. And after that Antiochus had smitten Egypt, he returned again in the 143rd year, and went up against Israel and Jerusalem with a great multitude, and entered proudly into the sanctuary, and took the golden altar, and the candlestick of light, and all the vessels thereof, and the table of the showbread, and the pouring of vessels, and the vials, and the censers of gold, and the veil, and the crowns, and the gold ornaments that were before the temple. all which he had pulled off. So you see, the Greeks came in and they ransacked the holy temple. They took all of what was sacred to the Jews, our forefathers. They took all of that out of the temple. They went into the sanctuary. No heathen is supposed to go into the sanctuary, right? Because it makes the temple profane. You know what I mean? And it's a great disrespect to our God. So they didn't care. They went up in there, and what did they do? They stole everything out of the temple of the Lord. Stole everything from God. Like the scriptures say, will a man rob God? Well, guess what? These Greeks did. These white people did. They robbed the Most High of all of of all of the precious vessels that He told His people to make and to take care of. Right. So now let's read on. And it says verse 23. He took also the silver and the gold and the precious vessels. Also he took the hidden treasures which he found. And when he had taken all away, he went into his own land, having a great massacre, and spoke very proudly. So he was killing our people left and right before he left. A great massacre. And they spoke proudly about it. Just like those police killers, man. They sitting behind them desks, man, speaking proudly about that. Yeah, we set that up. We made sure we killed them niggas. That nigga Alton Sterling. The nigga Trayvon Martin. All of our people, man. And they laughing behind closed doors in the dark. They may make it seem like, oh, they so concerned, or they may be concerned about it, man. But you see behind their actions, none of the officers were indicted. They may throw a little indictment here or there, but other than that, that's it. No true justice for the chosen children of God whatsoever. So as we continue reading, you're gonna see the oppression. You're gonna see the oppression build up even more in this chapter. But let's read. Let's continue reading. Let's continue reading. It says, therefore there was a great mourning in Israel in every place where they were. So there was a great mourning in Israel, just like there is right now. You see all of the riots happening. That's mourning. You see mothers crying. That's mourning. You see fathers, man, losing their sons. That's mourning. And all of Israel is in a state of mourning. In the truth, out of the truth, it don't matter. We all mourn it because we sick of this. But let's read on. And he said, so that the princes and the elders mourned, and the virgins and the young men were made feeble. So you see that? The princes and the elders are mourning. Our leaders were mourning. The women who were unmarried, they were mourning. And it said it made the young men weak, afraid to do anything. But let's continue. Every bridegroom took up lamentation, and she that sat in the marriage chamber was in heaviness. So those who were even getting married, man, they were depressed because of the abominations that was happening to their people. They was watching their brothers and their sisters die. But it gets worse than that. Let's read. So he said, the land also was moved for the inhabitants thereof, and all the house of Jacob was covered with confusion. Why? Because you're going to see that many of our people had sided with the Greeks. So they were also responsible for the massive massacres that was happening. Just like you see all of those brothers, man, that's caught up in the police force, caught up in the militaries, man. You know that they're a part of that massacre of their own people, and they're not speaking up or saying anything about it. And they know the corruption, so they just as guilty, man, as those who are doing it or committing the acts. They not challenging, oh man, this is my job. I don't want to lose my job. I know it was wrong. But you know what? So what? And then you got the leaders and the politicians who don't give a damn about it either, man. They just using it they're just using it as a publicity stunt, right? So it says, the land was also moved with the inhabitants thereof, and all the house of Jacob was covered with confusion. After 2 years fully expired, the king sent his chief collector of tribute unto the cities of Judah, which came unto Jerusalem with a great multitude. So now he has sent his tax collector, right? This gets even worse. Taxes increase now. Now they're coming to collect a tax from the entire southern kingdom now. Right? So this is after 2 full years, man, after the massacre of the people, all of that. After he came in, took the vessels and all of that. Okay? And he says, who came into Jerusalem with a great multitude and spake peaceable words unto them, but all was deceit. So they began to speak. They were speaking peaceable, right? They came in with the deception of what? Of bringing peace. That's why the scripture says, man, they deceive my people saying peace, peace, and there is no peace. The Lord said there is no peace for the wicked. But let's read on. So it says, and they spake peaceable words unto them, but all was deceit. For when they had given him credence, so when they gave this man, so they showed this man respect, right? He fell suddenly upon the city and smote it very sore and destroyed much of the people. And this was another massacre. Slaughtered many of the people. Many of our people died this day, right? But let's read on. And when he had taken the spoils of the city, he set it on fire and pulled down the houses and the walls thereof on every side. But the women and children took they captive and possessed the cattle. So they took the women and the children into slavery. They took the cattle in which farmers had. And he says, then built they in the city of David a great a great and strong wall with a mighty tower, and made it a stronghold for them. So this is where you get like them, what you call them? I forget what they call. They set a garrison there. So basically, like they put foreign troops in the city, right? And they made a tower or a station. This was their base that they set up, man, so that they could do what? Let's read on. And it says, and made mighty towers and made it a stronghold for them. And they put therein a sinful nation, wicked men, and fortified themselves therein. Right? So just like just like they're doing here in America, man, they have these bases set up, man, with foreign troops, right? You see that the UN, they doing what? They sending men that are over here. They're sending foreign troops over here, right? So that they could do what? When martial law goes down, they can put their foot in the behinds of the who? The Black Lives Matter movement, right? Or anyone who's against the government of the United States of America. So who do you think kick against the pricks of America? Israel, because of the oppression. The scriptures say, oppression maketh a wise man mad. But let's read on. It says, and they stored it also with armor and victuals. And when they had gathered together the spoils of Jerusalem, they laid them up there. And so they became a sore snare, for it was a place to lie in wait against the sanctuary, and an evil adversary to Israel. So when what, by them setting up this tower, they set it right next to the place of worship for the children of Israel, right? And anybody that came to the temple, they said they would just sit there and they just kill them. Anybody trying to go to the temple, man, they'd massacre them. Just think about all of the lynchings, all of the hangings and the burnings that you done seen, right? Well, just imagine that's happening right in your city street, and ain't nothing you can do about it. You seeing your brother, your sister lying out in the street being butchered by some white people, and ain't nothing you could do about it. The same thing happening here in America. Our people being butchered right before the world, and ain't nothing that we can do about it. Why is that? It's like the Lord said, man. He said he would take away that power, that spirit of war away from us. So yeah, you see a few Negroes get mad, throw some rocks. But what is throwing rocks gonna do? What is standing there holding up a sign gonna do? That ain't gonna get you the peace or the justice that you want. That ain't gonna do none of that. That's all that's doing, man. That's just I hate to say it, but just a sad, desperate cry for justice. A sad, desperate cry for justice and equality here in America, and they're not gonna get it. Our people are not gonna get it, and the Most High showing them every single day that they're not gonna get it. But let's read on. And it said, thus they shed innocent blood on every side of the sanctuary and defiled it. Right? So when it talks about shedding innocent blood, that means they were killing for no reason. Just like these police officers, they killing for no reason. No reason at all. It ain't because the man was doing anything wicked, it's just because he was black. Profiling. Straight assassination. Right? But let's read on. Insomuch that the inhabitants of Jerusalem fled before them, whereupon the city was made a habitation of strangers. So now, man, it was so bad, the affliction and the oppression was so bad that many of the Jews ended up leaving. They ended up leaving their own city because now Jerusalem was becoming occupied by the strangers, right? By the Greeks and by the other nations that worked for the Greeks, right? Your UN right there. Then it says, and became strangers to those who were born in her, and her own children left her. Her sanctuary was laid waste like a wilderness, her feasts were turned into mourning, her Sabbaths into reproach, and her honor into contempt. So you see that our people began to flee, man. And what happened? Our sanctuary, the priests weren't there no more. The priests couldn't offer sacrifices anymore in the sanctuary. Who the hell would want to come to a place, man, where to offer something, to offer a sacrifice, and you walk outside and then somebody's there to murder you? And the damn government that's in charge don't care. This is what was going on during the time of the Greeks. Same thing. So let's read. So it says, as had been her glory, so was her dishonor increased, and her excellency was turned into mourning. Moreover, King Antiochus wrote unto his whole kingdom that all should be one people. Right? Now you see where they get. Now you see that this new world order crap, man, has always been around. It was during the time of Nimrod, when Nimrod took over and became the mighty one in the earth. That was his government, right? Now you see that this was Antiochus. This was his government that he was trying to set up over the lands which he had control over, right? He was saying, he wrote to all his realm letters saying that all should be one people, right? This is the same thing, man, that they pushing right now. Everybody's gonna be, it's not about being black, it's not about being white. We're all under the human race. We're all one people. That's the deception, man, that they want you to believe. Equality don't matter. You are not equal in the eyes of the elite or your oppressors. You don't have the money to be equal to them, right? But because since you're at the bottom of the barrel, they feel that you need them. And you'll buy into being one people, right? But you're gonna see what happens, right? So let's read on, verse 42. And everyone should leave his laws, so all the heathen agreed according to the commandment of the king. So now, just like you see all of these central banks being set up, you see they set up in South America, right? We seen an example of that in Venezuela. Venezuela went broke, flat broke. You see Europe is flat broke. You see that the Middle East has been completely westernized. And you see all of these nations, man, beginning to bow down to who? They're beginning to bow down to Satan, right? They're bowing down to this so-called white man. And they're doing what? They're applying his democracy or demonocracy. Are they not? Mm-hmm. You see it, right? I can pull up an article and show you, man, about how the Arabs over there now, they no longer want to keep their customs, man, but they want to celebrate the crap that's over here in America. They like the haircuts and the hairdos. The women like not wearing the veils. They like just being exposed, being able to walk down the street by themselves with no man being present. They like all of that freedom that they receive now. But that's America. That's what the beast promotes. That's what he's been spreading all over the world. His democracy, his freedom. That's what you see what he pushes, right? So one people, a free people, right? It says, and everyone should leave his laws. So all the heathen agreed according to the commandment of the king. That's another thing. That's why them nations don't like Christianity. That's why them nations don't like Christianity. That's why they afflict all of their people, man, that turn to Christianity. Because they know it ain't nothing but a bunch of BS that makes you weak and soft, and it turns you away from their laws. But this is the false prophet that the Bible speaks about. But let's read on. And it says, and yea, many also of the Israelites consented to his religion and sacrificed unto idols and profaned the Sabbaths. So many of our people consented to this religion. They consented. All right, we're going to leave our laws. We no longer going to keep the commandments of God. Just don't hurt us. Don't afflict us anymore. We'll follow whatever you say. And it says they did what? They began to sacrifice unto idols. They began to sacrifice unto Zeus, Balkis, all of the Greek gods and goddesses. They began to sacrifice to them all. And profane the Sabbath day, meaning they began to work, do all type of abominations on the Sabbath day of God. And the king, verse 44, and the king had sent letters by messengers unto Jerusalem and the cities of Judea that they should follow the strange laws of the land. So they sent letters out, right, to our cities that many people should follow the strange laws of the land. Don't find it strange, man, when you start seeing that we gonna have to start trying to they gonna start trying to make us keep certain customs of America if you want certain privileges. So let's read on. And they forbid burnt offerings and sacrifices and drink offerings in the temple, and that they should profane the Sabbath days and festival days, and pollute the sanctuary and the holy people. They set up altars and groves and chapels, chapels of idols, and sacrifice swine's flesh and unclean beast. So now their feast, they began to sacrifice all these unclean animals, and our people had to eat this. Just imagine, man, you go in the wick, right? And now you got to drink pig's milk. You got to get pig's milk for your child. You got to get the cheese with the pork in it. You see what I'm saying? So this is the stuff, man, that they might do to keep us profane. You never know. But let's read on. So it says that they should leave their children uncircumcised and make their souls abominable with all manner of uncleanness and profanation, to the end that they might forget the law and change all the ordinances. And whosoever would not do according to the commandment of the king, he said he should die. Treason. You don't follow the Greek laws, you don't follow the laws of America, when that time comes, it's treason. In the selfsame manner wrote he to his whole kingdom, and appointed overseers over all the people, commanding the cities of Judah to sacrifice city by city. So that's what the Greeks did. This is what the king did, man. He appointed over cities over all the peoples, right? So each sector of his kingdom had an overseer, right? Just like how they about to chop up America. If you watch the whole FEMA camp thing, right? They chopped it up in certain sectors, and they're gonna have a governor for each sector. Same thing, so that they can make sure their whatever they're trying to push, man, is implemented. And they have militaries or garrisons in each state. So it says, then many of the people were gathered unto them, to wit, every one that forsook the law, and so they committed evils in the land. So many evils were being committed in the land of Israel, and drove the Israelites into secret places, even wheresoever they could flee for succor. So meaning that many of the Israelites, man, that was keeping the commandments, they fled for safety. So it's gonna come to the point, man, where it's gonna get too hot for us up top, and we're gonna have to go into secret places so that we can keep the commandments, right? So a neighbor could be sitting here, man. We could be sending up our prayers, and he could be walking by, and he could say, "Wait a minute, I hear that funny prayer that they be saying in Hebrew. Wait a minute, that's that funny prayer that they saying. You know what? Let me call the police." And they come in here busting the door down, man, talking about we all under arrest for doing what? Sending up our prayers to the Heavenly Father about to keep the Sabbath day of the Lord. But it gets worse. But let's read. So it says, and in the 15th day of the in the 15th day of the month of Caslu, in the 145th year, they set up the abomination of desolation upon the altar and built idol altars throughout the city of Judah on every side. So they set up the altar of Zeus in the temple, and they profaned our God. They disrespected the Most High by doing this, right? But what could our people do? They couldn't do nothing. They couldn't do nothing. This is the power. This is the power. Our people had no power because they were being oppressed. And it says, and burnt incense at the door of their houses and in the streets. So they had to burn incense. They had to burn incense in the houses. They had to burn incense in the street, man, to this god Zeus. And it says, and when they had rent in pieces the books of the law, they found they burnt them with fire. So whatever books of the law, the Bible that they found, they burn them with fire, right? They could come here and confiscate all of these Bibles, man, take them in the streets and burn them. Okay, here's the Queen James Bible. Read that. You can read that Bible. Queen James, the gay Bible. You can read that for yourself. That's what you want to read the scriptures? You got to go to one of our facilities, one of our chapels, and hear the Bible being preached. You're not authorized to do it. You got to go to the chapel in order to receive the word of God. That's what they do. But let's read. So they began to burn the books. So they began to burn the books of the law, right? So if they burn in your books, that means they burn in your laws. They burn in your statutes. They burn in the feast days. They burn in our history. They trying to make sure that they do what? They make us forget about the laws of God. So now let's read on. He said, and whosoever was found with any book of the testament, or if any consented to the law, the king's commandment was that they should be put to death. Thus did they by their authority unto the Israelites every month. So every month they was doing this. They was going from city to city, making sure nobody had a Bible, nobody was keeping the laws. You know what I mean? If you was found with it, you were gonna die. That's what they was set. This is the wicked policy that the Greeks were setting up. And don't think they was just doing this by force. No, they was them letters, man. Those are official letters. Just like they make legislations and stuff, man, that you see here in America, passing gun laws and all of that stuff. The same thing that the Greeks was doing through their little legislations. Passing laws. All right, here's a legislation for no one can read the Bible. Here's a legislation for no one can keep a feast day. Here's a legislation for no one can offer a burnt sacrifice or anything like that. Killing animals is an abomination to us Greeks. If you here's a legislation, no Jew can circumcise their child. No one in the kingdom can circumcise their children. That is an abomination to us. That's filthy. That's disgusting. They say it now, don't they? You see what I'm saying? They do say it's barbaric. Circumcising your children is barbaric. You can leave the foreskin on them, but for what, man? It's a custom that was given to our forefather Abraham, and it was passed down to his children, who were the children of the promise, and it was a covenant that God established with us to make sure we were a part of the covenant. All right. So now let's read on. And it says, now in the 5th and 20th day of the month, they did sacrifice upon the idol altar, which was upon the altar of God. So that's when they set up Zeus, man, and they began to sacrifice on the temple, on the altar of God, altar of the Most High. At which time, according to the commandment, they put to death certain women that caused their children to be circumcised. And they hanged the infants about their necks and raffled their houses and slew them that had circumcised them, right? So the men or the women that was doing it in private, they killed these people for keeping the law of the Most High. Circumcision is a law. So whoever they found, they put them to death. They made them a public example to the people. They hung the infants by their necks. But let's read. Right. So let's read on. So it says they rifled their houses, meaning they ransacked their houses. They slew them that had circumcised them. Howbeit many of the Israelites were fully revolved and conformed themselves not to eat any unclean thing, man. So many of our brothers and sisters, man, they stayed true. And they did not eat any abominable thing. They did not practice any abominable custom in which the Greeks, you know what I'm saying, wanted them to practice. They didn't care about the laws of the Greeks. Just like we don't care about the laws of America. You see? We care about the laws of the Most High. You see what I'm saying? So remember, yes, if we do abide by the laws of this place called America. Why I say that? Because you can't pass that traffic light or else you're gonna get a ticket. You see what I'm saying? You don't steal or else you're gonna go to jail, right? So those things, yes, we do abide by here in this place. But keeping the festivals, performing their worships and all of that stuff, man, their ideology, their way of thinking, we don't accept. We don't accept that whatsoever. All right, but let's read on. So it says, wherefore they chose rather to die, that they might not be defiled with meats, and that they might not profane the holy covenant. So then they died. So our people, they rather chose death. You see them, just like just like those slaves, man. They said, man, I'd rather die than stay here, man, and be whipped. Watch my wife get raped. Watch my son get raped and my daughter get raped. I'd rather die. I'd rather die running or die trying than watch my whole family be destroyed right before my very eyes. That's what they did. They said, I'd rather fight. I'll kill master in his sleep if I got to. If whatever it takes to be free. If I get caught, they hang me. Oh well, at least he dead. So this is what was going on, man. Our people were being heavily afflicted by the Greeks, man, like never before. But now you're about to see something miraculous happen. And the Most High is about to take action. He's about to take some heavy action against this nation. And guess who he's going to do it? And guess who you're going to see who he's going to use to do it. And these brothers brought down an empire. They weakened the foundation of that empire. Let's read. And it says, in those days arose Mattathias, the son of John, the son of Simon, a priest of the sons of Jarib, from Jerusalem, that dwelt in Modin. And he had 5 sons, Johanan called Caddis, Simon called Thassus, Judas, who was called Maccabeus, Eleazar called Everan, Jonathan, whose surname was Apus. And when he saw the blasphemies that were committed in Judea and Jerusalem, he said, woe is me! Wherefore was I born to see this misery of my people and of the holy city, and to dwell there, and to dwell there when it was delivered into the hands of the enemy, and the sanctuary into the hands of strangers. Her temple was become as a man without glory. So this is all in what Mattathias was seeing, man. So just like we witnessing all of the events that's happening to our people in this land, Mattathias was seeing his own people, man, going through it, right? Just like I see the misery of my brothers and my sisters out there, holding up signs, man, out there crying because they loved ones that were murdered and killed. I see the misery of my brothers and sisters, right? I see as we're delivered into the hands of the enemy. You see what I'm saying? And he says, her temple was become a man without glory. Her glorious vessels are carried away into captivity. Her infants are slain in the streets. her young men with the sword of the enemy. So her infants are slain in the streets. Well, look what happened to Tamir Rice, right? Killed in the street. Boy only had like a toy gun. The police came up, didn't say stop, just ran up on him and shot him. Slain in the street. Mike Brown, right? Slain in the street. Trayvon Martin, slain in the street, right? And countless other. Jordan Davis, slain in the streets. And her young men slain with the sword of the enemy. Freddie Gray, look what happened to him. Eric Garner, look at what happened to him. Brothers that were just minding their own damn business, man, and just brutalized by the sword of the enemy, and the countless of other brothers, man, that have been killed without mercy. But let's read on. What nation hath not had a part in her kingdom and gotten of her spoil? So he's asking the question, what nation, man, has not gotten a piece of Israel and gotten the riches, man, the spoil of our people, of our nation? What nation has not? As you can see, man, it still applies even till today. All of the spoils in which the nations get from us. They take our money, all of that. But let's read on. All her ornaments are taken away. Of a free woman, she has become a bondwoman. So Israel was once free, now she's a slave. And behold, our sanctuary, even our beauty and our glory is laid waste, and the Gentiles have profaned it. So this is what Mattathias is seeing, man. He said our sanctuary, the gloriousness of our sanctuary, the holy temple, one of the, I would say the number one wonders of the world, the ninth wonder of the world, as they would call it, right, is now laid waste. The glory and the beauty of our temple, man, has become profane now. So you can only imagine what that did to the spirit of Israel when they seen that happen. So it says, to what end therefore shall we live any longer? Then Mattathias and his sons rent their clothes and put on sackcloth and mourn very sore. In the meanwhile, the king's officers, such as compelled the people to revolt, came into the city of Modin to make them sacrifice. Check that out. What do you think that's talking about? It said the king's officers compelled the people to revolt. How do you think you can relate that to today? The king's officers compelled the people to revolt. No, revolt. Check this out. Exactly. The same thing that you see them doing right now with the officer killings, causing them to revolt against the system, rise up against the system, right? But it says here, and it says they came into the city of Molten to make them sacrifice. So now this is the city of Mattathias, right? They're visiting this city now, and they're about to make them sacrifice. But let's read on. And he says, and when many of Israel came unto them, Mattathias also and his sons came together. Then answered the king's officers and said to Mattathias on this wise, thou art a ruler and an honorable and a great man in this city, and strengthened with sons and brethren. Now therefore, come thou first and fulfill the king's commandment, like as all the heathen have done, yea, and the men of Judah also, and such as remain at Jerusalem. So Mattathias was a man of stature in Modin. This was his city, right? He was the high priest of this city, right? So now, as you can see, they're trying to get him to come and offer the first sacrifice, right, of an abominable beast. So you think if he would have did it, right, many of the people would have came and they would also did it and partook of it and partook of the ceremony. But watch what Mattathias say. Watch what Mattathias says, right? So then it says, so shalt thou and thy house be in the number of the king's friends. He's like, you gonna be in the number of the king's friends, right? So just like you see all of the rulers in politics now, man, hell yeah, you don't think they in with the elite? You don't think that they friends? You don't think they sit down and have dinner? You see Al Sharpton, he was sitting down with what white woman was that? Having dinner and toasting up with her. I forget her name. I think it was Christina Aguilera. One of them. But just toasting it up. CIA informant. He's like, you're gonna be numbered amongst the king's friends. But let's read. Then he says, so shalt thou and thy house be numbered of the king's friends, and thou and thy children shall be honored with silver, gold, and many rewards. So he's like, man, the payoff's gonna be big if you do this. You're going to receive great wealth and glory and honor if you do this for the king. So you see who they went to first. They went to the leaders first. They persuaded the leaders to do what? Cause their people to transgress. So it was something, man. I was listening to a song by Dead Pez, right? He said, you can't fool all the people all of the time, but if you fool the right ones, then the rest will fall in line. So you fool the right ones, the right leaders, all of the other people will buy into what those leaders are saying, right? But let's read. And Mattathias answered and spake with a loud voice. Though all the nations that are under the king's dominion, they obey him and fall away every one from the religion of their fathers and give us consent to his commandments, yet will I and my sons and my brethren walk in the covenant of our fathers. That's the great pride I got right there, boy. I read that, I was like, yes! Go, Mattathias. You don't bow down to these wicked men. So, man, I was joyous when I heard that. Now, let's read the rest. God forbid that we should forsake the laws and the ordinances. We will not hearken to the king's words to go from our religion, either on the right hand or the left. Now, when he left speaking these words, there came one of the Jews in the sight of all to sacrifice on the altar, which was at Modin according to the king's commandment. Now you got this Uncle Tom coming out right now. Coming out, right? He's like, what? He gonna get us all killed. Master ain't gonna like this. So you know what? Let me go sacrifice. I'll go up and sacrifice. I'll do it. And watch what happens. So it says, now when he had left speaking these words, there came one of the Jews in the sight of all to sacrifice on the altar which was at Modin, according to the king's commandment. Which thing Mattathias saw, he was inflamed with zeal, and his reins trembled. Neither could he forbear to show his anger according to judgment. Wherefore he ran and slew him upon the altar. So he was like, man, you wanna sit there and sacrifice? So Mattathias, you already know, man, what it says. He couldn't forbear to show his judgment. So he was a calm brother, a cool brother, right? One that had very well tempered, a lot of self control. But it said when he seen this thing, he just couldn't contain it no more. That's why it says he was inflamed with zeal. You know what what spirit that was? That was the spirit of the Most High coming upon him at that point. So now when you see in these last days, you're gonna see this exact same spirit come upon many brothers, man, in this word. You're going to see our people being oppressed. They're going to think that the Lord is forsaking them. They're going to think God has forgotten about them. Just like it said, man, it was 2 full years that expired, man, when all of these abominations was happening to our people, right? And I think it was even longer before this rebellion had took place. But you see, the Lord, he's showing you right here, man, he's always going to have brothers, man, set up to where he's going to be over them, and he's going to show you how great his power is. Because when you read the story of Gideon, right? Gideon only had how many men? 300. He only had 300 men. That's where they get the story of 300 from. 300 Spartans, right? Gideon had 300 men in his corner. And what did they do? They took down them dirty Africans that was over him and oppressing them. And the Midianites and them Edomites that was over them. He took them down, tens of thousands of them versus 300 of them. And that showed you how great and how powerful the Most High is. How he could take 300 soldiers and then take down entire armies with just 300. You read about the story, I believe, of Abijah. How it was 1 million Africans and Ethiopians, right, coming out of Africa, right, into Northeast Africa, what they call Israel, right? Coming all the way from Ethiopia, Egypt, all from different parts of that region. 1 million souls coming to try to take out Jerusalem, right? And it's the most. And Judah only had I believe maybe 500,000 to their million. And the Most High destroyed that whole million soldiers, man, that came out. The power of the Most High, man. So as you can see, so it says, which thing Mattathias saw, he was inflamed with zeal, and his reins trembled. Neither could he forbear to show show his anger according to judgment. Wherefore he ran and slew him upon the altar. And the king's commissioner, who compelled men to sacrifice, he killed at that time, and the altar he pulled down. So he not only did he kill that man, that treacherous Israelite man, but he also killed the king's commissioner and his soldiers with him, right? And also he pulled down that abominable altar that they had set up. But let's read on. And it says, thus dealt he zealously for the law of God, like as Phinehas did unto Zimri, the son of Salom. Right? And Mattathias cried throughout the city with a loud voice, saying, whosoever is zealous of the law and maintaineth the covenant, let him follow me. So now you can see this is where your true leadership began to form, right? The Most High used this one person to spark a rebellion, man, that shook the very foundations of the Greek Empire. And you're gonna see the Most High is gonna do it again. But he's gonna show you even greater works than this in this day and age and in this time, man, in this revolution that's about to start. Man. You're gonna see brothers that you ain't never even heard of come up. Just because you see all of the leaders now, man, that are over major camps and all of that stuff, that doesn't mean the Most High gonna use them. He said he'll take one who you ain't never even heard of, man, and use them to destroy his enemies and his foes. Ain't nobody heard of Gideon, but guess what? The Most High used him to take down 4 different nations. Saul, nobody heard of Saul, but he used Saul to reunite the kingdom of Israel and give Israel hope again. Ain't nobody ever heard of David, but David was one of the greatest Israelite kings that ever lived. And one of the mightiest warriors that was upon the face of the earth. The Lord will use men you ain't never even heard of. You see Brother Jason, right? Brother Jason, calm, cool, collected, right? Just turned into this warrior, bearded warrior that'll stand up against any foe. So this is why, man, this is what the Most High is setting up right here, okay, in this time, which we see during the time of the Greeks, all right, and you'll see many of the campaigns that Judas Maccabeus had against the Greeks, and just like the power in which the Most High was dealing with the family of Mattathias and his sons, okay. So now I'm gonna drop down, and I'm gonna read. Let me see. I'm gonna read this. I'm gonna read verse 34. All right. So as time went on, you'll see that many of the Israelites that sought justice, they began to follow Mattathias and his sons. All right. So many of those people, man, who were out there that's looking for justice, looking for righteous leaders. Guess what? They began to follow Mattathias. That's the same thing that's gonna happen. Many of our people, man, you know, they're gonna see these brothers come up in power, and they're gonna begin to follow them. They're gonna get themselves right, and they're gonna get ready, right? So then it says, so then you'll read that upon the Sabbath day, it was a tragic incident that happened. Over 1,000 of our people, I believe, they were killed on the Sabbath day of the Lord because they refused to seal the holes of the caves in which they were in to keep the Greeks out. So they was like, man, you kill us, our blood is going to be on your hands, and the Lord see that we're going to be innocent. So they wanted to die in their innocency. And Mattathias and his sons took counsel and said, you know what? Any man that comes against us on the Sabbath day, we fight. No matter what. We fight. We protect ourselves. That's called self-defense. That's in the law. When you read in Exodus chapter 22, self-defense, right? If a man goes into your house, breaks into your house, and you kill him, no blood will be shed for him, right? But now, so this is what happened, okay? So now we're gonna start here at verse 41. And it says, and at that time therefore decree saying, whosoever shall come and make battle with us on the Sabbath day, we will fight against him, and neither will we die at all, as our brethren that were murdered in the secret places. And then came into unto them, and then came there unto him a company of Assyrians. So these were Jews, right? So these were like this was like the aristocracy of your Jewish community at the time, right? Or your Israelite community. And it says, who were mighty men of Israel, even all such as were voluntarily devoted unto the law. Also, all they that fled from the persecution joined themselves unto them, and were a stay unto them. So they joined their forces and smote sinful men in their anger, and the wicked men in their wrath. But the rest fled to and the rest, but the rest fled to the heathen for succor. So many of the sellouts, right? They fled to their master. They fled to their master, man, for safety. And Mattathias and his friends went around about and pulled down the altars, and what children soever they found within the coast of Israel uncircumcised, they circumcised valiantly. They pursued also after the proud men, and the work and the work prospered in their hands. So they recovered the law out of the hands of the Gentiles and out of the hands of the kings, neither suffered they the sinner to triumph. So this is what began to happen. So you see that Mattathias, it says they got the law back, the books of the law that they began to take and they were burning. They said they brought that back, and it said neither did they allow the sinners to triumph anymore. And you see that this is when the Greeks, man, began to go down. All right. So now you see that Mattathias began to set an order amongst his sons. He said, Judas, you're going to be the captain of the people. You're going to be the one to lead Israel into battle. So this is what Mattathias has set up before he died. All right, when you read the rest of the chapter. And then he says, Simon, you're going to be the one who is going to counsel him. Jonathan, you're going to be second in command. Simon, you're going to be the counselor of the group. Okay? So now we'll drop down and we're going to read chapter 5, and we're going to start at verse 1. So this is going to be the last chapter I'm going to go into, man, but I want to show you the power in which the Most High, man, has. All right? And how he began to take out the Greeks. Okay? So now it says, then took Gorgias 5,000 footmen and 1,000 of the best horsemen, and removed out of the camp by night, to the end that he might rush in upon the Jews, the camp of the Jews, and smite them suddenly. Okay, I'm in First Maccabees chapter 4. Okay, so now it says I'm on verse 2 now. So it says, to the end he might rush upon the camp of the Jews and smite them suddenly. And the men of the fortress were his guides. It says, now when Judas heard thereof, he himself removed, and all the valiant men with him, that he might smite the king's army which was at Emmaus, or Emmaus, while as yet the forces were dispersed from the camp. And in the mean season came Gorgias by night into the camp of Judas, and when he found no man there, he sought them in the mountains, for he said, these fellows flee from us. But soon as it was day, Judas showed himself in the plains with 3,000 men, who had neither armor nor sword in their minds. So these men had never been experienced in combat whatsoever. That's what he's talking about. These men had no combat experience. They were not warriors. These were just men who were just voluntary, man, who were willing to fight and die for their people, to protect their families. This is what these men were doing. So they had to establish leadership. Now they just had the ground. Now they had to get the ground forces together. All right. So now let's read on. So it says, and they saw the camp of the heathen, that it was strong and well harnessed, and compassed round about with horsemen. And these were experts of war. So they were like going up against, say for instance, like the Navy SEAL. or the Marines of like America has. The Marines are supposed to be the toughest, right, of the military or special forces, whatever. So that they went against the best of the best, and it was just like these were brothers ain't never been in battle before. But watch what happened. And he says, then said Judas to the men that were with him, fear ye not their multitude, neither ye be afraid of their assault. Remember how our fathers what were delivered in the Red Sea when Pharaoh pursued them with an army. Now therefore let us cry unto heaven, if peradventure the Lord will have mercy upon us, and remember the covenant of our fathers, and destroy this host before our faces this day, that so all the heathen may know that there is one who delivereth and saveth Israel. Okay. Then the strangers lifted up their eyes and saw them coming over against them, wherefore they went out of the camp to battle. But but they that were with Judas saw their trumpets, so they joined battle, and the heathen, being discomfited, fled into the plains. So man, they saw the Jews ready for battle, right? So they thought this was going to be an easy victory, but it was not. So now let's read on. He says, howbeit all the hindmost of them were slain with the sword, for they pursued them unto Gezerah, and unto the plains of Idumea, Ashdotatis, and Jimni, so that there were slain of them and so that were slain of them upon a 3,000 men. So 3,000 men were killed in this battle. These were the Greeks. So this is what the Most High showed. He showed his power. All right. So now, so boom, 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 boom. So now let's get. So now let's drop down. No, we'll keep reading. We'll keep reading real quick. So then it says, this done. So this done, Judas returned again with his host from pursuing them. And said to the people, be not greedy of the spoil, insomuch as there is a battle before us. And Georgius and his hosts are here by us in the mountain. But stand ye now against our enemy and overcome them, and afterward this ye may boldly take the spoil. So he's like, look, don't be greedy for the spoils, right? They carried swords, money, food, horses. All of that was still there from the battle. But Judas said, no, don't take it just yet. We still got the Greeks in the mountains. So let's handle them first, then take the spoil. And he says, and Judas was yet speaking these words, there appeared a part of them looking out of the mountain, who, when they perceived that the Jews had put their host to flight and were burning their tents, for the smoke that was seen declared what was done. When therefore they perceived this thing, they were sore afraid, and seeing also the host of Judas in the plains ready to fight, they fled every one into the land of strangers. Then Judas returned to spoil the tents, where they got much gold and silver and blue silk and purple of the sea and great riches. So this is how the Jews began to build their treasuries back up. They began to take every battle in which they fought. They began to take the spoils of the nations that they fought. Right? So now, I'm going to read to you about Lysias real quick. It says, now all the strangers that had escaped came and told Lysias what had happened, who, when he heard thereof, was confounded and discouraged, because neither such thing as he would were done unto Israel, nor such thing as the king commanded him were come to pass. The next year, therefore, following Lysias, gathered together 70,000 choice men of foot, and 5,000 horsemen, that he might subdue them. So he took 60,000 footmen and he took 5,000 horsemen. So they have 5,000 in their cavalry and they have 5,000 footmen. We're in First Maccabees chapter 4 and 1 verse 26. So 60,000, you're going to see how many the Jews have brought out, right? so it says, So they came into Idumea and pitched their tents in Beersheba. And Judas met them with 10,000 men. So you have 60,000, right? 60 men, 60,000 men versus 10,000 men, right? So the odds are still stacked against the Jews. But watch what happened. Remember, the Most High don't deal with numbers, right? He took Samson, right, which was one man, and slew how many? He slew 1,000, right? Then you see David, he did what? He killed 18,000. You see, Saul killed his 1,000. David killed his 10,000, as the song goes, right? So it says, and when he saw the mighty army, he prayed and said, Blessed art thou, O Savior of Israel, who didst quarrel the violence of the mighty men by the hand of thy servant David. So he went back to the history in his prayer and gave the host of strangers into the hands of Jonathan the son of Saul and his armor bearer. You can read about that in 1 Samuel chapter 14. Shut up this army in the hand of thy people Israel, and let them be confounded in their power and horsemen. So remember, the heathen, they trusted in their power, right? In a great multitude of numbers. But like